All right, thank you for staying with the Monday Report. Let's get into that discussion. Exams have started. 965,501 candidates sitting the KCSE exams amid stringent measures. There, and joining me in studios, Janet Muthoni Ouko, former Nairobi CEC Education, and Dr. Emmanuel Manyasa, Executive Director of Sawa Agenda, is joining us from Cape Town in South Africa. Thank you so much for making time for us, Dr. Manyasa, I'll start with you. You've seen the stringent new measures that have been put in place for their supervisors, no electronic gadgets in the exam area. Also, students now, the papers come with their name. Is this the silver bullet to exam cheating?
Thank you, Trevor, for having me. First, allow me to use this opportunity to wish all the candidates success in their examinations. This is an important exam and milestone in their lives, and we wish them all the best. I also wish the invigilators all the best as they invigilate this exam under new conditions, which are tough, and which I hope they will be able to adhere to for the sake of the children whose futures depend on these examinations. I think that I understand where the ministry is coming from, because we've had this monster of exam cheating that has kept on rearing its head at every point we have exams. And my hope is that the conditions have been well thought through. There has been a basis for making them, and that they're not guesswork, so that they actually work, because the sacrifice being made by both the learners and the invigilators to be able to adhere to these conditions are enormous, and they should not count for nothing. There should be no loophole at the back end away from these sacrifices that are being made to still allow cheating to happen.
Yeah, but Dr. we've still seen the exam being administered where some students are in hospital, some are in labor, some are delivering, some are unwell. Is it time to rethink how we administer exams, especially knowing all too well that those instances will be there? There seems to be no provision for that.
We have requested in the past that it be considered that these candidates are actually given special exams after. Because I am not a woman and I may not know, but women will know that when you are in labor, you are in no condition to prepare for a national examination. And especially an exam on which your entire future is going to actually depend afterwards. It's unfair. It's unfair that we give students who are sick and in hospital examinations to do. It should be possible, because it happens in universities, it should be possible that these students with legitimate reasons for not being able to sit an exam, especially medical reasons, that they be given special exam afterwards.
But then how do you ensure that there's a level playing field? Because if they have special exams and their colleagues have done a different exam during the time of ranking, even in terms of assessment, how do you levelize that?
Because in the end, examinations are not supposed to be a race in which we are trying to determine who gets to the finish line first. It is supposed to be a test of how much learning you have been able to achieve when you're going through the level of education that you're going through. If we can understand the examinations to mean that, then we shouldn't be focusing on ranking and which learner finishes ahead of each one, but we should be focusing on what does the certificate really reflect. Does that certificate reflect the ability of the learner, the level of preparation of the learner going into the exam, or does it reflect some other encumbrances that the learner may have been going through during the examination?
But this ability and preparation, you say, needs to be measured against something else. That's how you know that one is better prepared than the other.
I taught in the university, and we gave students special exams. Those who are, for medical reasons, unable to sit exams when others were sitting. And they did not necessarily have any advantage in terms of what they scored. So I don't think that allowing a student who is in labor right now to sit another exam in January instead of sitting that exam now will give them any undue advantage.
Because these exams that you're talking about.
That happens at other levels, and it doesn't reflect any advantage.
Because then that exam that you're talking about has to be significantly different from the one that their colleagues sat for, because then the ranking would be different. Even if there's no ranking, of course, their colleagues would tell them this is a question that was on the chemistry paper. So it means the special exam has to be significantly different.
Every exam, national exam, has like 5 versions. All of them having gone through the examiner's tests and metrics that ensure similar levels of difficulty, similar coverage of the syllabus and all that. They have like 5 versions of each exam paper to take care of. If there is leakage, they will just bring another paper and not the one that has leaked. So it is possible to actually give these learners a separate exam, and that exam still assess them on the same basis as those who sat yet a different paper.
Dr. Manyasa, before I let you go, there's been a similar way of administering exams over the years now. Is there something that needs to change going forward, apart from giving special exams here and there? What more can be done to change the entire system?
I think that it has been our aspiration as a nation to move away from the high-stakes exams. I think that we need to start demonstrating that. That is the basis upon which we came up with CBC to say that let's do away with the high-stakes exams. But even as we move through the transition phase, we need to be already starting to demonstrate departure from these high-stakes exams. And yet we seem to be building layers and layers around the exams that create anxiety, that make exam administration unnecessarily expensive, that make exams feel like a life and death issue. And I think we need to broaden our minds and even ask ourselves, do we still need to print exams in the UK for it to be sat here? Do we necessarily need to print exams on special paper? Universities are printing exams on ordinary photocopying paper. Why are secondary school exams having to be printed abroad? Why can't we leverage technology that is available to make exam administration a much cheaper enterprise and therefore a less life and death issue for our learners, and something that focuses on basically evaluating what learners are actually able to do rather than what learners can be able to memorize at some point. In other jurisdictions, secondary school exam is not such a serious thing. And if universities doubt the certificates that you present, then they're allowed to administer an entry exam relevant to their course, administered by themselves, and then you demonstrate your ability to withstand the rigors of the course you are applying for, and you get admitted into the university, for instance.
Okay, Daktari, thank you so much for making time for us. Dr. Emmanuel Manyasa, Executive Director of SAWA Agenda, speaking to us from Cape Town. I know you have another engagement coming up shortly. We appreciate your time, Daktari. Thank you so much. And Janet,
thank you.
Thank you. This is what we were talking about earlier on, Janet. Does lowering the stakes of examination necessarily lower the quality of students who are moving to the tertiary level?
Absolutely not. And I think making the stakes so high is what has had counter effects, because it's what has given birth to a lot of maneuvering, so that then you are at the front, so that then it places you at an advantage level. It's what has made people not actually teach the syllabus, but just teach the examination, and thereby affecting the quality of education. And so, as Dr. Manyasa says, lowering all this hype about what examinations really mean, and also making sure that our systems are flexible, so that it doesn't mean that when I am not able to do the examination, is there room for me to wake up ill and then I say I am not able to take particular papers, and then the papers are arranged, for me to take them when I will feel that I'm in good strength. And I think those are some of the issues that were coming with the 844 system. Yeah. A very rigid, system. But I think now we've seen some level of flexibility in terms of, especially think about the timetabling. If you interact with the timetable for now, a few years back, and I think about 2 years ago, it was when you finish one paper and then you rest for an hour or 45 minutes, and then you go back and do the other paper. But now I think we have just a paper in the morning and a paper in the afternoon. Sort of seeing the ministry preparing to enter into the CBC situation, where there is quite some level of flexibility. And really the interest is about nurturing a child's potential and extracting the best out of a child. And I think this is what had informed the grading that we saw last year. Because last year you saw the grading system changing, so that out of all the subjects that one did, then there was an opportunity to say, yes, you have done this, you have done maths, and then out of the 2 languages, we select one, and then the others, we select the best that you have done. Apart from a departure from the past where we just did an average of everything that you did, whether or not you failed in chemistry, whether or not you were not very good in physics, that was brought on board and you were given a grade that reflects all this. So I think looking at the future, these are some of the strengths that we can say about the competency-based curriculum, where now assessments are going to be replacing all these kinds of really tight, very uptight examination mode that the country has known for quite a while. Yeah,
but the disparities don't change, Janet, because the same issues we're seeing now in terms of exams of the 844 is the same one we're seeing when it comes to CBC, where there are certain schools that don't have the infrastructure, there's certain schools that don't have the teachers, they don't have the capacity to give the children a level playing field for them to harness their potential to the best of their ability. Yeah. So this doesn't level the playing field at all.
I agree with you that anytime we want to have a conversation about education, we are drawn back by the inefficiencies of the past, the underinvestments of the past will forever, find their way anytime that we want to discuss anything, because we are not likely to solve the challenges, for example, of not having adequate teachers and so on. But at least the attempts to make sure that we are addressing a learner at a time under the circumstances. And that is why some people are probably feeling that we wouldn't have started, rolled out CBC until such a time when we had adequate infrastructure, when we had adequate teachers teaching there. And the question is when? Because even when we look at the resource commitment maybe coming from government towards addressing the infrastructural challenges within the education sector, you're not seeing a very big promise. In any case, we are seeing dwindling, investment in education. So that if you think about the benefits that CBC, for example, would offer, you wouldn't sit and say that in 20 years or in 15 years or in 7 years, for example, is when then we would read ourselves out of this very hard examination situation issues and so on. It's sort of a chew gum as you do the stairs, sort of a situation. Yeah. As we improve the financing, we also want to improve the software around which the education sector operates.
Yeah, but speaking of the software, even does abolishing the ranking and getting into the assessment one give a difference when it comes to the kind of people that you nurture? Because you see, life in itself is very competitive.
True that.
Does that then are we giving that a disservice to the students who come in who believe assessment was better than actual ranking, so that you know where you are in the pecking order?
And I think the whole issue about educating is not necessarily to queue one behind the other and say I am better than this other person. It's more of an inward-looking situation. Like, have I brought the best out of myself? The competition is not really between me and you. I know life is very competitive, but the competition is not between me and you because we are different. And we have seen children demonstrating their difference in so many ways. There is no way that if I am not gifted in certain abilities, I am able to compete with you. You've had this example of if you want a fish to climb a tree, really, you'll rank it so badly, but then when you took another animal to the sea and swim, then that is the situation that we have in the education sector. If you sit 60 children in a classroom, they will be so various in their own respect.
But where will be the push, Janet? Because I remember when we were coming up and there was a lot of ranking, there was always that push that you needed to do better. Does this then allow someone to just have a lull? No. Either way, it's just an assessment, so I don't need to work so hard at anything.
No, in the assessment itself, there are various grading systems that will allow you as a learner to even be able to assess yourself and say, and I think we need to, my generation and probably so many people's generations, we are not accustomed to this new thinking, where we are not saying that you are better than this. This school is better than the other, because you cannot compare maize and beans. We really have to come to terms to the fact that you cannot compare maize and beans. You can only compare beans vis-a-vis beans. But when you're putting 60 children in a classroom and wanting to rank them from the top to the bottom, and you have not taken cognizance of their differences, some will thrive in certain issues, and that is where 844 was being criticized, because it gave an opportunity to 20% of the learners to thrive and gave a very bad verdict on the 80%. But what happens when all of them meet later in life? You will find that these children that were given a verdict of a D, excelling more than the children that were given a verdict in an A, tells you what? Probably what 844 was testing is not it. There are so many other things that you ought to have exploited out of this child. And that is why we are saying we would really admire an education sector that really looks at every child and appreciates their differences and brings out that best. And tells them, you have succeeded, in your circumstances, in your giftings, you have succeeded in that. I think if so many people are to be very honest about the verdicts that they have been carrying in their life, you would find a child that was struggling in physics. There are people we went to school with and they would forever get 3%, they would forever get 4% in physics. Can you imagine that unfairness that we meted on them? Yet they were succeeding in racing, they were succeeding in other things, but we never bothered to give them a mark for that. We never bothered to tell them that, I think you're good in this, so that if we can take you through grammar classes so that then you can be able to articulate yourself. If we can take you through business classes so that then your trade, you can be able to thrive in whatever trade that you do. I think that would be, that's a new direction that our education sector, is facing. And I sometimes agree with so many people when they criticize, because that is not what we have known. We have known that I have gotten an A and you got a B+, so I am better than you, and so I go and do a better course. And unfortunately, when we go towards life, you could have done a very posh course and someone else did some craft and so on and so forth. But when we are measuring success in life, just the way we measure it, maybe we measure it by probably you've succeeded in marriage, you've succeeded, you've bought a car, you've bought land, and the way we just measure it. So I don't know how come that then these other people that were given a very bad verdict in life, you will find them even very successful, even happy, if that is what we consider, success. Okay. So by and large, is that we would even want, even before the KCSE comes to an end, because it is coming to an end, want the ministry to start socializing Kenyans. We do not want to see this fanfare when it comes to launching of the exams. Like last time, you remember, there were so many people, they flew to Moi Girls Eldoret to go and launch exams. And we are asking ourselves, really? Who does that? So
the fanfare is unnecessary.
How necessary is it? What economic value does it add? I mean, what is it for? Why can't we wake up to one morning and everybody goes to some website and they get their results? And that is where we want to get to. If you think about the things that go on, Like, for example, there are schools that would even be asking parents for money so that they can be able to do some maneuvers, paying, lying that they will be able to, because even promotions of teachers have been affected by these issues of exam cheating, that you're being promoted because your school excelled.
Yeah.
So you got to do anything that you can, including collecting money from learners so that then you can be able to pay your way. I'm really glad when I look at some of the reforms that the current, examinations are being run under. Sort of quite some high levels of integrity. KPSEA just ended, and it had about 100%, levels of integrity, which is really, really commendable. Because even as we move towards the assessment levels, Trevor, we're saying that those verdicts, a lot of them will depend with the teachers that are assessing you.
Exactly. And actually, that's where I wanted us to wind up, because when you look into the future, what then needs to change? Because even today, the TSC CEO, Mr. Macharia, said that they've just been given 1 billion shillings to retool the teachers for grade 9. So have we consistently put the cart before the horse? Because it's when they're being given this money, but CBC is already here. Transition is happening. So looking into the future, what needs to change so that this education train stays on the rails?
Absolutely. The issues of finances will forever, remain with us. We have entered a situation where everything, we always say that there is no money for everything, there is no money for everything. But I think the only thing that we're asking out of this government is just steady investment. They give us 20,000 teachers. Let's not see a decline or a stagnation. But if we can do this by and by, I think in 2026 we wouldn't be speaking about the challenges that we are speaking about. Like, for example, if the classes, the building of the classrooms that were promised last year, if this year they would be built, and then now next year we do something, and the other year we do something, I think by and by we can be able to tackle some of these challenges. But doing it once and then you stop, that is how we have found ourselves where we are, Trevor. That you can have a classroom that has 120 children sitting in one classroom. I think we really need to think very carefully about how and where we are investing our finances in education. Because when you want to lobby, you will be told, Kenya is spending 24%, of the national budget on education. Do we want to ask where exactly is this? Where exactly is this 24% of the national budget going? Because every day we say there is no sufficient funds towards education.
All right. Yeah. Janet Muthoni, thank you so much for making time for us. That's Janet Muthoni Ouko, former Nairobi CEC Education. It's always a pleasure getting your insights when it comes to education matters. And Dr. Emmanuel Manyasa, Executive Director of Sawa Agenda, speaking to us from Cape Town, South Africa. We're taking a quick break here. When you come back, it's time for some sporting action. Don't go too far.